Welcome. So the connecting piece here is that we're going to work on setting up an environment, a development environment, and we're going to start this off on a Windows 8 machine. It'll be more or less similar for Windows 7. There's almost no difference, and we can certainly test that as we go through. We're not exactly going to use any of these tools immediately. We just sort of want to go through and set them up and do the installs so that we all know that we have a same sort of base environment to work from. And again, we're not going to use any of these tools right off the bat. We may take a look at one or two of them and just be like, hey, so we know they're working. But again, it's all about setting up a base environment, and that's extremely important when you're doing any sort of development work or any sort of research or anything like that. So the first thing we're going to do is look. If you look down here at the right, or I'm sorry, at the taskbar, you can see I have several icons just pinned to my taskbar. Got my OneNote. I have my Win SCP. Got my PuTTY, which is an essential thing for anyone who does any sort of server management, SSH stuff on Windows. My Windows Explorer, my calculator, my Notepad++, some other program, and then we have Outlook, IE, and Chrome. IE is there only because certain websites don't want to actually work with it, but for all intents and purposes, you can just ignore IE. And as a matter of fact, I highly recommend that you just ignore IE because it's crap. Stick with Chrome, and if you absolutely have to, do the Firefox thing, but Chrome's the way to go. But that's neither here nor there. We're not here to argue about browsers. So first thing I'll bring up is Notepad++. A lot of people like Notepad++, and as a matter of fact, it is a really good thing. It's a great text editor. It's a great drop-in replacement for Notepad. You can see I have some kind of INI file here I'm sort of fooling around with. This is something I was doing at work. Had to do with USB to serial converters and tablets and stuff like that. But I'm going to go ahead and close that. So Notepad++ is a perfect drop-in replacement for Notepad as far as general purpose text editing goes. But when it comes to actual source code, Notepad++ is meh, is frankly the best way to put that. It is meh in the sense that I don't feel like Notepad++ is designed to be used for writing source code. It's not an IDE by any stretch. It's a general purpose text editor, INI files, log files, text files, host files, autoexec bat in for whatever weird universe you live in where you're still dealing with that stuff. Basic things like that. Just, again, a replacement for Notepad. Notepad++ is perfect. And if you don't have Notepad++, all you have to do is go to Google and just Notepad++. It's going to be the first hit. Download. It's idiot proof. You just click the thing, hit the other thing, it runs, it installs, and you're done. Definitely do the context associations with Notepad++ because it'll basically pick up all that BS that Notepad was associated with, the text files, things like that, and it'll install itself in the in the shell as well. So if we had, just local disk, and then we have, see if we can find some stupid file like a Windows batch file here. It'll install itself in the shell. So when you right click on something, you'll get this great edit with Notepad++. So you just bang on that. It opens it right up. Here's some stuff. Here's what's in the file. Life is great. You will notice that it won't replace some of the default associations. So if you like a INI file, something like this, and install, double click on that, it's still going to open in Notepad, but again, you will also get the right click, edit with Notepad++. There's the whole shebang. So how you want to set that up is somewhat subjective and somewhat up to you. You could always go into, I believe it is default programs. Again, I'm on Windows 8. Windows 7 is not almost the same thing. So set your default programs. You can go in here and find INI files and all kinds of ridiculous crap, and move the associations from Notepad to Notepad++ if you really wanted to. A shorter way to do that is just to right click on it, go to properties, and then opens with Notepad. You could change it to more options. Windows 7 is slightly different, but it's, again, kind of the same sort of animal. Go ahead and dig out Notepad++, wherever the hell it is. So in this case, it would probably be C, program files, Notepad++ or something. Yeah, so it actually looks like my Windows Explorer is kind of giving me some crap right now. So that's great. I always love that kind of stuff. There we go. You can see I have my OneNote open. Here's my general outline that we're going to go through. So you can see Sublime, Python, Con, Emu, stuff like that. But I wanted to cover Notepad++ first. The next thing we're going to go over is Con Emu. And basically, if you have any familiarity with the command prompt whatsoever, you're going to notice that it sucks. And frankly, it sucks hard. So hit the Windows key, pull up the thing. I can just do CMD. And if I'll back up here a little bit, if you hit the Windows key on Windows 7, you're going to get your start menu. It's going to be like search, and you just type in cmd.exe. You're going to get the same thing. So we do this. We do cmd.exe. It pulls up the command prompt. Hit enter. We have a command prompt. The command prompt sucks for so many ways, but the most obvious ways is that it has a width limitation by default. So you can see I'm trying to resize it to the left and to the right. Just won't go farther. So that really blows. Let's hit the maximize button, and that's all you get. That's it. So what astute observers will say is that you can always go to, I believe it is properties, and you can always go in here and change the layout by default, but that's bogus. It's crap. And the other thing is, if we do that and just sort of clear it out, is this a much more subtle thing and esoteric that people will not necessarily bring up or be aware of unless they do any kind of in-depth development. I believe it is CHCP. That's the active code page. What that has to do with is how text is outputted to the console. So by default, the command prompt sets itself to 437. 437 is, we can actually Google it in the event that you're curious about this. Let's say command prompt code page 437. Links us to an XP article. It's perfect. That's how bad it is. Get a live login, forget that. We're definitely going back. Yep. Great. Let's see. 437 is the United States region. That's all it says. So the modern move is towards something called Unicode, and 437 is woefully inadequate for that. So what we want to do is download, basically we want to solve several problems. The first problem we want to solve is that this is not a good development command prompt shell at all. This is crap. If you have a program that's 10,000 lines and you run it and it starts spitting out errors, you're going to fill up this whole entire window in probably 5 seconds, maybe 1 second. And so that's the first problem we have to solve. The second problem is that there's no tab browsing. I want another command prompt. Got to right click here. I have to go to command prompt. And the really shitty thing about this is that I want to maximize this. I double click it, or I even for the cheap seats, if I hit the maximize button, it overlays my existing command prompt. So now I have to go here and then go back, and now I have to keep track. If say I had a third command prompt open, hit maximize. Now I have 3 command prompts sitting on top of each other. This is ridiculous, frankly. So with no further ado, and enough of my bloviating about how shitty the command prompt is, what we were going to do is download something called conemu. So it's just CONEMU, and it's on Google Code, which is, you know, it's alright. And basically what this is this is a command prompt emulator that allows you to open up a command prompt, a PowerShell prompt, and it has tab browsing, and it has different transparency settings, and it has hotkeys, and it has environment variables, and it's everything that a command prompt should be. So we're just going to go right ahead and just download this. So we click download twice. Eventually we'll get to this page. And now we're looking at this page here. What we want is the installer. The portable is nice in the sense that if you need it on a flash drive or something crazy like that, the portable is the way you want to go. But we're assuming you're on a desktop or a laptop on a dock or something like that. So we want the installer 32-bit, 64-bit version. And it'll go ahead and download it. We're going to go ahead and run that. I happen to be on a 64-bit machine. Presumably you are too, unless you happen to be running Linux 2.2 or, you know, Windows ME or something like that. But whatever the case may be, we're going to go ahead and run the 64-bit installer. We're going to agree to it. We are going to leave the default settings here. I don't want to get crazy and tweak stuff, so we're just going to install it. And it takes very little time to do. And if I go to view and show desktop icons, I should have my conemu right here. By default, it should create a shortcut on the desktop. If it does not, Windows 7, Windows 8, just bang on the Windows key and you could probably type conemu and it'll just pop right up. Again, it'll be in the start menu on Windows 7 down here somewhere. Windows 8 just happens to have a different way. And I'm going to pin that to my taskbar. And I'm just going to go ahead and run it. And the first time you run it, it's going to give you this prompt about fast config. I usually don't change anything here. So if I was going to change one option here, it'd be enable automatic updates, which I am in fact going to check. Then I'm just going to hit OK. So we have this rather rudimentary looking thing. It looks very much like a command prompt, but I'm going to go ahead and hit the maximize button. And I have a full screen command prompt window. That in and of itself is amazing. So I have jumped the shark, frankly, at this point. It functions a little differently than what you might be used to. So the current directory that you're in pops up here, and then it has a command prompt down here. So if I was to, I'll just type in echo just as a stupid statement a couple times. So you can see that here's the directory you're in, and then the command pops up down here, and then output afterwards. So we'll just go ahead and drop into the C directory, or just C. And what is Windows? Is it CWD, PW? No, it's Linux. So yeah, I don't know. That in and of itself is amazing. And you can do all kinds of crazy things with it by using the icon in the upper left. Just go in here, start up a new console. Now I have 2 command prompts. They're not overlaying each other. It could be in 2 different directories. I could do 2 different things. And this is perfect because when you're doing development, you're going to want 4, maybe 5 different command prompts open. One to run a script one way, maybe another to run a script a different way. One to look at a log file. One to check, network sockets, and just if you can't run multiple command line instance or command prompt instances without them overlaying each other and causing you trouble, you're not in a good development environment. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. Conemu allows us to basically sidestep all that crap and it gives us a nice sort of solid development environment as far as the command prompt goes. And it also, I'm going to go ahead and close that. It also allows us to open up PowerShell as well. So if you're familiar with PowerShell and you prefer to be in that environment to manipulate environment and variables or do module stuff, things like that, you can open up PowerShell tabs alongside your command prompt tabs. So that's something that we'll certainly get into as well, because I enjoy PowerShell, and then I want to dive in there a little bit, do some machine manipulation, WMI, stuff like that, which is not specific to PowerShell, but I just like, PowerShell is kind of it's a nice environment for that kind of stuff. But whatever the case may be, you want ConEmu. It's a perfect drop-in replacement for the command prompt. Do that. So that's step one. Step two is a full, I don't want to say full-blown, but is a integrated development environment for our code. So we're not writing any code right now. We don't even know what code is. I mean, what is code? Who cares? I don't. Not at this point. But what I need is something that would enable me to write code and assist me in cutting the corners and making stupid mistakes, and limit me from making stupid mistakes, rather, if I decided to write code. And my preferred editor of choice in this regard is something called Sublime Text. So again, you could just go to Google, or you could just search if you happen to have Google enabled and use Chrome, something like that. You'll see Sublime Text, the first hit. I'm not going to bother reading about the whole thing. I'm just going to go to download. I know what Sublime Text is. It's a great thing. I like it. It's awesome. Sublime Text 3 is currently in beta, so we're going to stick with 2. So we are going to go with Sublime Text 32-bit. The 64-bit version is available. I have had mixed results with it. It takes a really long time to load up, takes a ridiculously long time to install. I've had much better luck with the 32-bit with no difference in functionality whatsoever. So I highly suggest the Windows, just the regular Windows link, 32-bit. So we'll go ahead and click on that. UAC pops up. Go ahead and click next, yes. Do that. Definitely add to Explorer context menu. The add to Explorer context menu allows us to see, sort of like when we right click on something, we get that option for like edit in Notepad++ that we were talking about earlier. That's what this does. We want that. So we're going to go ahead and just sort of next through all this garbage. And now we have Sublime Text installed. So we are going to Windows key, Sublime Text 2, and again Windows 7 will be very similar. You should get a screen similar to this. So the thing with Sublime is that it is free software. It is absolutely free and it's never ending, but they run it on a trial. So after you save a file 30-40 times, eventually a little pop-up will come up and say, hey, it's unregistered. Do you want to keep using Sublime? Do you want to register now? You click yes, it takes you to the link where you buy it. If you click no, it just goes away and waits until you save it 30 or 40 more times ad infinitum. So Sublime is great. It is a little annoying when you're working on a huge project and you hit like, save all and you save 30 files and then shit just comes up all the time. But it is far and away one of the best just sort of lightweight text editors that happens to do source code highlighting, syntax highlighting, things like that, code folding, all kinds of crazy stuff. And we can maybe try and come up with maybe an example of that by going to File and then Open, and hopefully we'll get a open file dialog here in a second. I feel like maybe my computer's being a little ridiculous, but this is not a function of Sublime. My computer's just been kind of stupid lately. So we are going to maybe do like an open disk, and then we'll just go back to this file. We're going to open that with Sublime Text 2. Go ahead and close that. So, I mean, again, you get line numbers, you get I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Control A. Obviously, you get like select all text, but you get nice features where you can replace tabs with spaces and spaces with tabs, which becomes hugely important when you do like source code editing, because some systems are sensitive to tabs and some systems are sensitive to spaces, and you certainly can't mix the two in some systems. There's all kinds of just really nice like handy features like mini maps, stuff like that. So like here's a little blip about like here's what our file looks like as like a mini map similar to what you'd see in like a JRPG. Just little crap like that. It's really nice. And you can set up like build and compiling and interpreting and stuff like that, and projects, and obviously, but anyway, for the purpose of this sort of data dump, brain dump series, we're going to stick with Sublime. And the last tool, if I may consult my OneNote real quick, is going to be Python. And Python is a programming language, is what we're going to say. And what we're going to do is we're just going to drop into Google real quick. So we're going to go to Google. And what we're going to search for is Python 3. And the people who are familiar with Python are probably rolling their eyes and looking at the ceiling or doing the angry monkey at the monitor or something. And we're going to use Python 3. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Python 2 is it's not deprecated per se, but it is it's not compatible with Python 3, which is the new version of Python, the modern version of Python. It's what everybody should be using. It's just that there's so much damn code written in the Python 2 code, requirements, syntax, vernacular, if you will, that it makes it extremely difficult to migrate to Python 3. So because we have no existing code, we haven't written any code yet in this sort of series, so we have nothing to worry about. We can just go ahead and be like, yes, I want the modern version. So we're going to go directly to Python 3, and we go to Google, do Python 3, and you can go to the first link, which is welcome to Python. I prefer the second link, which is download Python. I want download Python 3.4.3. I don't want download Python 2.7.10. Don't do that. That's for people who have a ridiculously existing code base. I had actually already had Python installed, so it's popping up this menu about whether I want to repair it or remove it. You'll probably get a dissimilar menu in the effect of like, hey, you should just install it. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit repair, which is it's probably just going to not probably, but it's just going to reinstall it. So it's going to validate my stuff. It's going to copy some new files. It's going to give me a thumbs up, and it's going to give me the Python and the Holy Grail kind of stuff. So now I have three things. I have a text editor / integrated development environment, or IDE, for the uninitiated, so I can write my code. I have Python, so that I can actually code in a programming language in Sublime and then feed that code into Python. So I can code in Sublime and send it to Python. And then I also have conemu, which is great because I'm going to need to run my code from somewhere, which is what we're going to use conemu for. So this may all not make sense at this point, but these three tools are going to be critical for us moving through the series in almost every single video. Maybe Python to a lesser extent, but certainly conemu and Sublime, those two tools are going to be critical, probably show up in every video for anything, whether we're doing assembly to web servers to sockets to Sonic walls or Meraki firewall crazy nonsense. Like those two things are across the board drop-in replacements for built-in Windows components that frankly suck. And it'd be great if Windows just built that stuff in, but unfortunately they don't. And third-party products, I understand why, but whatever the case may be, at this point, hopefully you have those three things installed. feel free to mess around with them. I wouldn't worry too much about the Python because there's going to be a whole series and videos and stuff dedicated to how to deal with that, how to open that up, how to run that, how to interact with that. But certainly Sublime and Conemu, feel free to fool around, read the facts, Google around a little bit, check out Stack Overflow. They're very powerful tools, especially Conemu and Sublime, not to be pushed away, but they're both very powerful tools. Once you get the hang of them and used to them, you're gonna just not understand how you ever got by without them. So we will go ahead and leave it at that. We have a decent environment set up, and we'll go ahead and start making use of these tools and diving into some more like concrete details in the next video.